235 in your book, and I know Brother Danny likes this one, so I thought about him tonight. He set me free. Now, this is a good old Albert E. Bromley song. Once like a bird in prison, I dwelt, no freedom from my sorrow I found. But Jesus came and he listened to me, and glory to God, he set me free. Yes, he set me free, he set me free. He broke the bonds of prison for me. I'm going down by Jesus to sing for glory to God. He set me free, and now I am climbing higher each day. Darkness of night has drifted away. My feet are planted on higher ground, and glory to God, I'm homeward bound. He set me free, he set me free. He broke the bonds of prison for me. I'm glory bound, my Jesus, to see for glory to God. He said. Now, before we do this last verse, we're going to sing it, but I want you to turn around while we're singing it and shake some hands and tell them you're glad Jesus has set you free. Will you do that? Goodbye to sin and things that confound. God of this world shall turn me around. Daily I'm working, I'm praying to, and glory to God, I'm going through. He set me free, he set me free. He broke the bonds of prison for me. I'm glory bound, my Jesus, to see And when we all say Jesus, we will sing and shout the victory. Oh, when we all get to heaven, oh, what a day of rejoicing that will be. And when we all say Jesus, we'll sing and shout the victory. Put your hands together for Jesus. Would you do that? Amen. What a great, great thing. Thank you guys so much. When we all get to heaven, we feel like we almost got there. It's that powerful. Good job. Great job. Give them a hand clap. We appreciate them. Tonight we're going to continue this series, again, this preach series that we're coming out of the book of Philippians. You know, I love Philippians. If you want to take the time and go through and read through the chapters, it will bless you. I promise you, if you read through the entire chapter. We just don't have enough time to preach each chapter each Wednesday, but there's so much in it. You know, we started off 2 weeks ago, and we talked about the purpose of life in chapter 1, and what, you know, God has given us a great purpose, you know, and it's one of those things that we all need to begin examining. We need to look at what God's purpose is. What is God's purpose? To live as Christ. That is what our purpose is. We're living for Him. Aren't you glad that we get to live for Him? And then the second chapter, we talked about the pattern of life and knowing that Jesus is our pattern. We're following that pattern. That He's the trendsetter. He's what we're supposed to follow. He's the example. You know, when we talk about being a light, when Jesus said, I want you to be a light, when He was talking, but He said, I am the light, He wasn't contradicting Himself. What He was saying is, you're going to reflect my light. In other words, my light is the real light, and it's the pattern. And that's what you're going to follow after. And then tonight, I want to talk to you about the prize of life. I love chapter 3. Chapter 3, Brother Kenny, may be one of the great relationship chapters in the Bible. Chapter 3 of Philippians, really dealing with your relationship with God. And it talks about what every one of us ought to want, the prize of life. You know, it's one of those things, I don't know about you. How many of you like prizes? You like prizes? Now, things have changed so much over the years. I remember growing up, you know, when I was a little kid and my mom would go to the grocery store and she would get cereal for us. I did not want Raisin Bran. Well, my mom loved Raisin Bran. I didn't care for Raisin. Raisin Bran was just an ordinary cereal, and it had no prizes in it. I didn't want Cheerios. I didn't want Corn Flakes. I didn't want Frosted Flakes because that was cereal for adults. I wanted stuff that they had that had prizes in it. Now, I don't know, some of y'all may remember, and if you go and you talk to Sister Connie, if you talk to kids these days, they have no idea that cereal used to have prizes in it. They don't know that they used to have prizes in it. They don't even understand when we talk about somebody's jewelry and say that looks like it came out of a Cracker Jack box. They're like, what? The other day, I'm just going ahead. This is where I'm going to go ahead and get on my little pet peeve and get on my. I don't get on very often, but this is one. I was at the store the other day and I walk into Walmart, and the world is changing, ever changing, and sometimes I just don't get some of the stuff. And I look over and I saw a Cracker Jack box, but it didn't say Cracker Jack on it, Brother Roger. It said Cracker Jill. I said, are you serious? What in the world? So I began to Google. Cracker Jack versus Cracker Jill. And it said that, and it told me that, well, Cracker Jack and Cracker Jill were the same thing, but now they have got to have a cereal to promote women in sports. I thought they had something that promoted women in sports. It's called being on a team. But, you know, the Cracker Jill, I don't know, it just got to me. So I don't know if they have prizes in the Cracker Jill box. I just know when I didn't see a Cracker Jack box, I wasn't going to buy any of that popcorn. And but I remember, I loved the Cracker Jacks, but I loved to be able to dump it out and get the prize in it. You know, sometimes there's some little stupid tattoo or something like that. And I was always disappointed with the tattoo. But what if they had an Army soldier in there? I was thrilled. You'd have thought I'd have gotten a $5 G.I. Joe with a little bitty plastic army man that came out of the Cracker Jack box. And, you know, love those things. I love prizes. I love getting prizes. I love winning prizes.
It's one of those things. In fact, a few years ago, here's another one. I'm going to go ahead and get on the soapbox. They had a 5K at the college. They called it a 5K. It really wasn't a 5K, but I like to run 5Ks. I like to do those things. And it was one of those. They were doing something to promote something, and so they said, "Hey, Brother Pake, you need to come out and run in this thing." Well, they did, Brother Ken. This is what they did. This got me so. They staggered the starts for everybody. So when you stagger the starts, you're supposed to time everybody in the stagger. And so I was in the last stagger. And I had the best time of anybody. But there was somebody that was in the first group. Well, yeah, he finished before me because he started 5 minutes earlier than I did. And I was so mad. He got this trophy for finishing. And yeah, that's what I said. I said exactly that. What? I mean, yeah. And in fact, as y'all can tell, I'm over it right now, still yet, because I wanted to have my picture in the Connections magazine because I won that race, but because I didn't get the prize. Some guy, and when he goes and looks at that trophy in his house, I know he's got to thinking, I stole that from Brother Pinky. But I like prizes. I like prizes. Even if I ever were to go to his house, I'm going to tell him he stole it from me. But I doubt I'm going to be invited. The prize of life. What is the real prize? Look what Paul said in Philippians chapter 3. He said, I press toward the goal for the prize of the upward call of God in Christ Jesus. Wow. What a powerful word that is. Heavenly Father, I thank you for your word. And God, as I express and share your word, I pray, dear Lord, that you would speak to each one of us. Speak to those who watch it online. In the name of Jesus, amen. I press toward the goal for the prize of the upward call of God in Christ Jesus. That's the prize. We're following toward that goal in our eternity. There are 3 key goals to me in preaching. When I'm preaching, every message that I preach, no matter when I preach, I have 3 main goals in those messages. One of my goals is always to try to push people to a personal passion for Jesus. We all need to have a personal passion for Christ, knowing what he did for us, but being able to have that. In fact, this chapter, it implies that personal passion for Christ. But the other goal that I always have when I'm preaching is a family passion for Christ. We each need to have a passion individually. But I don't want to just have it individually. I want that passion to be part of my family's passion as well. It's an important part of the goal of everything. So I want to see whether it's a family of 2 or whether it's a family of 22, that they get to, that there's a family passion for Christ. It's something that it's one of those things that people can enjoy together. And then the third goal that I always have, Sister Patricia, is that there would be a passion for Christ by the church. By the entire body, that the body of Christ would have a passion for him. What does it mean to have a passion? You see, you got to understand, we got to understand who we are and who he is. And so to understand that passion, and you find a little bit of this in this chapter, to understand that passion, you got who are we and who is he? And it helps us understand the prize, but it helps us understand the passion. Well, who are we? Who is the church? The church, according to Scripture, is the bride of Christ. Now, I don't know about you, but there's something amazing about a bride. There's always something amazing about a bride to that husband, that beauty. And yeah, we got to experience that as a family this weekend. My daughter getting married, but it also reminded me and reminds me of 33 years ago, the anticipation of me getting to marry my daughter's mother. When we got married on the 21st of July in 1990. And so when I always think about that passion. You know what? I had a great passion for her 33 years ago, but after 33 years of marriage, my passion for my wife is great. But you know what? Not only that, there's supposed to be a passion from the wife for the husband as well. And there's a passion there that goes both ways. And so that's if we are the church, then we are supposed to have a passion for Christ because he is the husband. We are the bride. And we're going to spend eternity together. You see, when we do a wedding with man and woman, what we do is we tell them that till death do us part, right? That's one of the things we share, till death do us part. But here's the thing, when we are part of the wedding of the bride of Christ, it's not until death do you part. In fact, it's when death goes ahead and takes you to eternity that fulfills those marriage vows. He said that's where death becomes a good thing. In marriage, death becomes a bad thing because it separates those spouses. But in the relationship with Christ, death becomes a good thing because that's the prize. And it's a difference in that kind of marriage. And that's what we want to preach. And one of the focal points of this series is balancing our passion for Christ with surviving and defeating the enemy who's going to attack you. Because that's what you're going to face. The enemy doesn't want you to have a passion for Jesus. The enemy doesn't want you to make it. The enemy wants every single one of you to give up. He wants you to quit. He wants you to fail. He wants you to backslide. He doesn't want you to make it. And so I want to balance having my passion with also overcoming the enemy that's attacking us, who's fervently trying to distract and take away and not just interrupt our passion, but destroy our relationship. We look on down. And in Philippians chapter 3, I want to read some of this chapter. And I'm going to read it from the Amplified. I didn't put it up there, Michael, so you won't have that. But I want to look at it for this. In verse 9 in Philippians chapter 3, it says, "And that I may actually be found and known as in him, not having any self-achieved righteousness that can be called my own, based on my obedience to the law's demands, ritualistic, uprightness and supposed right standing with God thus apart." I understand this is an amplified version, so it gives explanation of words in it. "But possessing that genuine righteousness which comes through faith in Christ." Who is Christ? Christ means he's the anointed one. "The truly right standing with God, which comes from God by saving faith." Oh, in verse 10 it says, "For my determined purpose is that I may know him, that I may progressively become more deeply and intimately acquainted with him, perceiving and recognizing and understanding the wonders of his person more strongly and more clearly, and that I may in that same way come to know the power overflowing from his resurrection, which it exerts over believers, and that I may so share his sufferings as to be continually transformed in spirit into his likeness, even to his death, that if possible I may attain to the spiritual and moral resurrection that lifts me out from among the dead." When I look at this, I see what we have in our walk with God, what we have in an authentic relationship with Jesus Christ. And when we talk about the prize of life, what we want to talk about is what we see in these verses I just read. An authentic Christian experience. Now, there's a lot of experiences that people can have. There are experiences that can be very good experiences. There can be experiences of emotion. And yes, we have those, don't we? And it's okay to have experiences of emotion, even in church. Yes, it's okay to have those. But I don't rely on my experiences of emotion. You see, what this world is looking for is to see Christians who have an authentic experience with Christ. And the authentic experience in Christ is not known by what happens in the altar. The authentic experience with Christ is known what happens after the altar. Now, don't get me wrong, what happens in the altar is important. It can set us on the path for that authentic thing, for that authentic walk, for that authentic thing that we're dealing with, and that authentic relationship, and that authentic experience. And I believe that. And we don't want to minimize the altar. The altar is kind of like this. The altar is the springboard. It is the place where the thing starts in your life. But it's not where it finishes. You see what happens when somebody has an authentic relationship and experience with God in the altar, then what do they want to do? They must want to go and carry that experience with them. It's nothing like seeing somebody that gets saved for the very first time, that they come up off that altar and they say, "I've got to share what I've gotten from God, I've got to share it with my neighbor. I've got to share it with my family. I've got to share it with my co-workers. I've got to share this. Even if it offends them, I want to share it because of that authentic experience that they have. And that's the thing that Paul impresses upon us in this, that when we walk with God, there are things that are important that we look at, that we'll find, and that we'll see, that Brother Kenny, are authentic, and it propels our relationship not only for us, but it propels the relationship to build that in the church. And that takes us to the prize of life. I want to break this down into just 3 small segments tonight. And if you get these, if you'll focus on these things, you'll most surely get to the prize for your life. I want you to look at the very first one. Paul says this in verse 13, or he says, one thing I do. Everybody say one thing.
One thing.
One thing I do. That's a very short part, just a snippet of that verse, but this one thing I do. You know what you find is this one thing called concentration. When it comes to having an authentic experience with Christ, it starts with concentration. How many of you know that one of the things the enemy tries to do is he tries to distract us from our concentration? That's what he's going to do. He's going to try to distract us from our concentration. Whether it be we're in worship service and something happens. You know, it's funny. We can sit in our living rooms and we can watch TV and a bomb could go off and it not interrupt us. Because we are focused in on that. If we're watching a ball game or something like that, and I mean, you could hear an explosion take place. I got to see this play to the very end. I got to see this game to the very end. And we're not going to be moved. We're not going to move. Or don't just get on the guys that are watching a football game. You know, I have been shopping sometimes with a few ladies that they were so focused on that sale that they were going to get to that it didn't matter if they had went through a traffic jam that they sat in for 3 hours, as long as they could get to that sale so they could get 46% off. That concentration, it stays for that. I understand those things. We have that. But yet we can walk in the house of God and a baby cry, and people say, I can't worship, my baby's crying. Or somebody's phone goes off. I can't worship because the phone went off. Phones are going off all the time around us. You know what? We're allowing the distractions of the world, the enemy, to distract us, to break away our concentration. I get down to pray by myself, or there's going to be something that's going to take place that I will think of things the enemy wants to break our concentration. But Paul said, one thing I do, I concentrate. You know what? Here's what we've got to learn to concentrate on. This is the one thing that we've got to do. We've got to concentrate on Jesus. Matthew chapter 6, Jesus said this, seek first the kingdom of God. In other words, Jesus said, Brother Jeff, to concentrate on me. He said, I want you to concentrate on me. And that's what we've got to do. We've got to seek first His kingdom. Jesus has got to be our concentration. He cannot be just a thought in our life. He has got to be what we're focused on. We got a lot of things going, all of us do. There are a lot of things you have in your life. There's a lot of things. We have business things. We have financial things. We have health things. We've got family things. We've got good things. We've got problems. We've got all kinds of stuff going on. We've got work. We've got school. We've got different things taking place. We've got to raise our kids, or we've got our kids raised and we can't wait for grandkids, or all these different things. And those things are wonderful to be a part of, but understand this, at the very end of the day, your concentration on Christ is what's going to determine where your eternity is. Now, what good is it if my financial security for the rest of my life is set and I'm not right with God? What good is it if I have enough money to make sure I make it to 99 years old? I'm not right with God. What good is it If I have all the wonderful things in the world and all the, what good is it if my kids get the finest education and they don't make it? What does the Bible tell us? Jesus tells us that some people, they'll work for everything in the world. At the end of the day, they can lose their soul. There's nothing worth losing our soul over. So our concentration has to be, I believe that you can have the blessings that come with hard work in this world and still concentrate on Jesus. In fact, there have been great leaders that had it all, so to speak, because they knew how to balance the fact, and you know what they did, the focus that happened with them, what they decided that they were going to do, that in their business ventures, that they were going to make sure that they gave their all for Christ. That they were able to do that. The owner of the largest aluminum company in America 30 years ago had given his heart to the Lord. He was wealthy. Do you know what he did? He decided against tithing in the traditional sense. So what do you mean? He decided, he signed his business over to God. He kept 10% and gave the rest of his business to God, to the kingdom, to the church. And you know what? He became even wealthier in doing that. He said, I want this concentration to be on God. And so you understand, that's and it's not just about money things, it's about things, but what is it? What do we give our time to? What do we devote our time to? Our concentration has to be on Him. So that's the first thing he says. One thing I do concentrate. If we're going to concentrate, we need to concentrate on Jesus. If we're going to concentrate, we need to concentrate on His purpose. What is the purpose that Jesus has for us? The purpose that Jesus has for us is twofold. The purpose is to love Him. It says in Matthew 22, your first purpose is to love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your soul and all your mind. And I challenge us today to focus that we say, that we don't say it, but that we do it, that we love God above everything and everyone. I told my son-in-law and my daughter in their wedding, I told it in this, and I said this in that wedding. I said, your love is important for each other, but if you want to sustain this thing, you need to make sure to love God first and the most. Above even. I told a boy that married my daughter that I wanted him to love somebody else more than her. But you know what? The only way their marriage is going to last is if he puts God first. And that's the way it's supposed to be. And he puts her second. The only way it's going to last is if she puts God first and she puts him second. You understand? That he has to be the primary. But then you know what we find out the next part of the concentration is? That Jesus told us, not only do we love God, we love others. He says, love your neighbor as yourself. And I've said this time and over again, but part of the concentration that we have to have is there has to be a genuine love for other people. And I'm not, for all people. In fact, everybody say all. All. Not just other people, all people. The good, the bad, the terrible. We've got to love them all. I was trying to be nice. Plus, I don't like Clint Eastwood. Another concentration that we are supposed to concentrate on. Again, this one thing I do. Apostle Paul made all these criteria in his life. This one thing I do. Concentrate on telling the story. We got to concentrate on putting Jesus first. We got to concentrate on loving God. We got to concentrate on loving all people. But then we also have to concentrate on telling the story. What is the story? The story is we have to all have some sort of concentration on being able to tell people how to know Jesus. He didn't ask us to. He told us to. And if I'm truly going to concentrate on Him, I've got to find. You may not be able to go and tell people, like go door to door, whatever, but I promise you, you have influence on somebody. I thank God for the message Brother Cole preached about influence. Every one of us has influence on somebody, and there's somebody you can tell about. Tell your story, how you got to know. I've heard some of you tell your testimonies. You have beautiful testimonies, and we're all different. I'm so glad that we were all raised the same way. Some people were saved at a very young age, lived through the church. Some people went through some terrible ordeals, whether it was of their own devices or things that they got into because of other people. But they came out of those and God saved them. What great stories they all of them have merit, but all of them come because of telling the story of salvation. Somebody told you, you tell somebody else. Concentrate. The second thing that will help us with getting to the prize. Now we're trying to get to the prize, right? The second thing is forgetting those things which are behind. Cancellation. Now we've heard over the last few years a lot of talk about cancel and cancel culture. I don't really get all the cancel things around except canceling the Cracker Jills. But the cancellation is one of the great evidences of a true, authentic walk with God. Forgetting those things which are behind. Help me out for just a minute. I want to have every one of you do something for me. Everybody stand up for just a minute. Everybody stand up for just a minute. Now, every one of you that came in this place, every one of us, we did not come in this place perfect. We didn't come in having lived perfect lives. We all come in here. We all have a past. Right? Every one of us have a past. Now, the great thing about the past is not in front of you. The past is behind you. Now, what I've discovered in my life, I can walk a lot of ways, but my most ineffective walking is walking backward. Because when I walk backward, when I'm not going toward my prize, I'm going away from my prize. When I walk back, the other day, I went out in my backyard, and I found a snake in the doorway to the porch. And the snake was in the doorway to the porch. I've got a 95-pound big dog named Bear. And Bear had backed himself away from that snake into his kennel. A snake that was that big, this 95-pound dog, because of fear of a snake that he had never seen before, had backed himself up into his kennel. I walked out there. I killed the snake, I got rid of it, and I looked at that dog and I said, Bear, you have embarrassed me. He had backed himself up. But I want you just real quick, I want you to turn around and just 180 degrees around. 180 degrees, that means, just stay, okay. That's your past. That's your past, okay? Now, the past looks ugly. It's regretful. It's the thing that depresses us. And Paul said here, I want you to cancel it. And the only way to cancel your past is to look forward. Turn around. Now turn around. Finish that turn and see. Now you're looking. Now sit down. You're looking a different direction. You're not looking at that past anymore. You understand there's a powerful thing of canceling. You know how your past gets canceled? It gets canceled through salvation. When Jesus Christ saved you, He canceled your past.
That's right. That's the part.
25 years ago, we were having to take our kids to the doctor often. We had two little boys before we had Katie Beth. We were having to take kids to the doctor all the time. We had a standing bill at the doctor's office. Just paying a monthly bill. It was like paying a car payment. We had a monthly bill at the doctor's office. All of a sudden, we stopped getting the bill. Well, I happened to be working out with our doctor in a fitness center. We were working out together. And And I didn't know how to bring it up. And I looked at my doctor and said, Doc, I know we owe you money, but we're not getting a bill. He said, he looked at me and he put his finger in my chest. He said, Danny, he said, if you get a bill from my office, he says, because I don't have a thing to do with billing. If you get a bill from my office, I want you to take it and throw it in the trash. I said, if I get a bill from your office, I can't just do that. I didn't want no collection agents on it for one. He said, you take it and throw it away. He said, you will not receive another bill from my office. He canceled what we owed and said, you're not going to get none. Now, as a young couple, he understood those struggles that we were having, raising two little boys and things like that. And so, you know, there's something powerful about that. If you've ever had something, probably most of us have had some kind of debt canceled in our life. Somebody did that for us. Somebody was kind. Somebody, it may not have been a big debt, but it was something that they canceled for you. You know what? You have things in your life that have been holding you down. You need to remember, you need to claim the blood of Jesus. And every time that thing comes back on you, it may be something from your past that's been bothering you. You know what? Jesus Christ, He forgave you. And you remember this. I want you to just remember this statement, cancel it. That it's canceled. That He's canceled. You know, when there's somebody, maybe somebody's hurt you or somebody's done things to you and you remember that God has forgiven you, you know what you need to do? You need to cancel it. You need not hold things against anybody else in the past because God canceled your debt. You go ahead and cancel somebody else's debt. You know what happened in the Bible? We find that we find a story of somebody who had his debt canceled. And then he went back and he went and found somebody that owed him a whole lot less. And he threatened to throw them into prison if they didn't cancel. And you know what happened? He lost his cancellation because he went in, the Bible said he got sent into outer darkness. You understand this? And when God has canceled ours, it is up to us to cancel on other people. That we don't hold things. That we don't hold on to stuff. That we are supposed to not look at the past. We're supposed to forget the past and turn for the future because we can cancel things because Jesus has canceled it for us. Somebody ought to say amen. You see, what happens is when we hold on to the past, we walk ourselves into depression and death. When we hold on to our past and when we hold on to other people's past, we walk into depression and death. Destruction. Well, I've learned this, that I'm going to walk in a spirit of cancellation. I'm so glad. I've had so many people cancel things for me, and I've had God cancel things for me. You know, you'll get down and you'll begin to pray, and you'll remember a sin you committed back before you got saved. It happens to all of us. Today, I can get down on my knees and pray, and I will remember, Sister B, something I did when I was 16. Now, that's not God bringing that back to my remembrance. That is the enemy wanting. But you know what I've learned? When I start to think about those things, I'll speak to the enemy and I'll say, Jesus has already canceled it. You leave it alone. It doesn't do anything to me anymore. I don't have regret over that anymore. I don't walk in regret over the things I did anymore. I'm already forgiven for them. And if I continue to walk in regret for the sins I've already been forgiven in, then I'm not walking in my forgiveness that He's given me. And if somebody else wants to hold my sins and my past against me, that's on them. Because I'm walking in the spirit of cancellation in my life. That takes me to the prize. I got to hurry. The third thing. We're trying to get to the prize, right? I press toward the goal. We have concentration. We have cancellation. But then we have continuation. I press toward the goal. What does it mean to press toward the goal? It means that no matter what in the world happens right now, no matter how many devils in hell attack you, no matter how many people in this world want to tear you down, no matter how many troubles you face, no matter how many trials come your way, I'm walking in continuation. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going no matter what happens. You know what? I could have quit 3 years ago in COVID. But no, I've kept walking. I could have quit 3 years ago when people were rioting and burning cities down. But no, I'm going to keep walking. I could have quit 10 years ago when some bad thing happened and that I got hurt or I got disappointed. I could have quit 20 years ago when I didn't think it was going to work out the way I wanted it. I could have quit 25 years ago when I knew that I had more money than I had money. I could have quit so many times, time and time again. But there's something that He's given us. He says, I want you to continue to press toward the goal. No matter what is coming against you, no matter what you're facing, no matter what is happening, if you go to the doctor and the doctor tells you you got 6 months to live, then go ahead and keep marching on toward that 6 months. You never know. You might go ahead and have more. Let me tell you just something. In December, my sister-in-law, her daddy is over 90 years old. He's had a colostomy bag for about 30 years. He should have been dead years ago. This man has been a deacon for years. Been a deacon for probably 60 years. Spent some days in the hospital, and old James Perkins, wonderful man of God. Years ago, after he retired from what used to be called ARCMO. Some of you remember ARCMO. After retiring from ARCMO, he opened a place called Happy's Hobby Hut, where people bought model airplanes and things like that. And he had that for several years because he loved flying those remote control planes and things like that. But he always served. When I've seen that man get up when he couldn't even hardly stand and lead singing in that old little church that my mom and I that they raised me in, and I watched him serve the Lord. And I remember but right before 3 weeks before I came to be the pastor here, I was already appointed pastor here. He came to me at a Baptist church, and they said, Jerome, you were raised here. Would you come? He's the one. He said, would you come and preach a revival for us? I said, are you sure? Do you know what? He said, we know who you are. A Church of God preacher to come and preach a revival where he got saved. And I said, now listen. I said, I will, but I'm going to preach it the way I preach it. And I want to have liberty praying with people in the altar. They said, we've prayed and we've asked God. And this was the one that came to me and asked me to do that. I said, okay, I'll do it. And went and preached. You know, you're not the only one that gets to preach in the Baptist church, brother. I got to do that, preach revival there. And we had a great time. Had several people that got saved. Several young people got saved in that particular revival. And so it was one, but Happy told me that James was the one that did that. And they told him in December, we're putting him on hospice, and he won't live much past Christmas. Now, he still has some physical problems. I got to go visit with him a few months ago and talk with him. And you know what? 8 months later, he's still pressing toward the goal. 90-something years old. The doctor's done figured out he's going to live a month. And he's still living, he's 8 months into it. And you know what? He made my sister-in-law and my brother, him and his wife lived with my brother and sister-in-law. And he said, since they're having to be over in Brooklyn, he said, y'all got to take me to church. And they had to find a church out in the country over where they were to take him because he's still pressing toward the goal. My point is to you, my friends, no matter what you face, the goal is for you to make heaven your eternity. The goal is for us the goal is not how big we're going to grow. The goal is not what's going to end up that we're going to leave our children. The goal is, are we going to make it to eternity, and who are we taking with us? Amen. That's the goal. That's the prize. That's the upward call that he said. We have to have heaven as the goal for all of us. It is the eternal glory that we have to gain, and we have a hell of damnation to avoid and a heaven to grab a hold of. We have eternal separation, or we can have Jesus Christ in our every day of eternity. What do you want to do? Do you want to keep pressing toward the goal? Do you want to keep on marching? Do you want to keep on going? Or do you want to give up just because things get a little bit bouncy, a little bit rough? It's going to get rough. It's going to get difficult. You're going to have tough times. Not everything is going to be good. You're going to endure tragedy. You're going to endure tribulation. You're going to endure tough times. Oh, the blessings of God will still be there regardless, because you made a decision that you're going to endure. You know what you have to learn to do if you're going to endure? Come to the music, please. We got to pray here. Here's what you've got to learn. You have got to learn this. If you're going to endure the things of this world, you've got to make your cesspool that you walk in your life. You got to make the cesspool of this world your garden to talk to God. That old hymn that talks about being in the garden reminds me that I can continue to walk with Him every single day. No matter what takes place, I can walk with God. You're going to see people backslide. Don't give up on them. Don't give up on them. Just when you see them backslide, don't give up on them. You keep pressing towards your goal. They continue to see, they're going to see those things. You're going to see some things that'll make you want to wonder if God's with you. But don't you dare give up. Keep pressing toward the goal. I'm reminded of the woman with the issue of blood. She kept pressing in. She got what she needed. Pressing in is not always easy. It's like running a race. Every morning when I get up to run, I set myself a goal. And Brother Ricky, I always set myself a shorter goal. Because I was thinking, I'm getting older. I can't do it as fast as I could. It hurts the whole time I'm doing it. And this morning I got so I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to run 2.5 miles on the treadmill. I got up early this morning. I'm going to run 2.5 miles and I'll be done. I feel good about that. Now you've got to understand, 10 years ago, I'd do 4 miles in 30 minutes. Now the knees don't allow that anymore. But I said I'm not going to stop before that goal. But as I was doing it, and I'm doing it, Sister Connie, a whole lot slower than I did. But I'm still doing it. Because it's one of those things, I set that goal. And so I got that goal to do that. But when I got to 2.5 miles, Brother Roger, I said, you know what, I think I can go a little bit farther. So I went 2.6. I said, what? I looked at I said, I think I can go just a little bit farther. I went 2.7. I went 2.8. I said, you know what? I might as well go ahead and hit 3. I might as well go ahead and hit 3. I pressed toward the goal and went beyond it. You know what? That's what God wants us to do. Every time I pick up my Bible, I think I'm not going to be able to finish my reading. But I want to finish it. Every time I pray, I don't think I'm going to get to finish my praying time. But I want to get to it. Press toward the goal. Continue. Stand to your feet if you will. What do we do? If we're going to be authentic, we're going to forget those things. We're going to do that one thing by concentrating. We're going to forget those things that are behind by cancellation. And we are going to press toward the goal by continuation. Here's what I want to ask you to do. I want us to pray right now. I want us to pray right now. And in just a moment, here's what I want you to do. I want you to ask God. I want everybody to pray this with me. Just pray this with me. Heavenly Father, right now, I come to you knowing I want to concentrate on you. I want you to be my number one. at all times. I want to walk in a spirit of cancellation. For what you canceled on me, let me cancel on others. And God, I want to continue. I want to keep on walking. I want to keep on serving. I want to keep on living for you. In the name of Jesus. In the name of Jesus. Hey, what I want to ask you, I know this is going to look a little bit silly. Let's look a little bit silly. I want them to go ahead and sing this song. And as they sing this song, would you do this for me? No, don't do it for me. Do it for yourself. Do something symbolic. Press toward the goal. I want you to, in your mind, I want you to think about a goal that you have in your